Okay, so we're now in chapter 18. And as I've said, I thank God no for this opportunity gyud to teach this topic because at the same time ano gyud siya no very helpful sa ako as I'm actually dealing with not just one teenager right now, not just my kid but with my nieces right now na mga teenagers gyud halos tanan and even just looking at Caitlin, I can't believe na she's actually a teen now. No, she's 14 years old, and Kendrick will soon put to be a teenager. Kay sigla na siya ingon sa ko, mami, one more year. I'm gonna be 13. So I'm gonna be a teen. So um, it is scary at the same time, but uh, these truths that I have that we will learn this afternoon about shepherding these teenagers will really help us no embrace them instead of having that fear, anxiety because the world will always tell us no na ay mao gyud na siya ang pinaka-critical, pinaka-challenging and pinaka-hadlok gyud na stage sa shepherding daw ang teenagers. So our goal this afternoon is to ano let's by the grace of God let's really pray na whatever fears that we'll have mga anxiety no even for some of you guys na wala pa or wala pa dira sa stage na but eventually you will be going to that stage na instead of fear, we will really just embrace it with joy, no, as we face every challenges na sa pag-shepherd nato sa atong anak. So, chapter 18 is teenagers training objective. I believe this is just the introduction. There are more subsequent pa na mga lessons that will talk about teenagers. So here, let me just start with the signs of times. So the signs of times. So this will just tell us no na for us parents, we would be able to know that our child is already on this stage. So the benchmark daw for this period, the benchmark for this period of life or the onset of puberty and the time when the child leaves home to establish a home of his own. So this is the period where the onset of puberty, no, medically, uh, we would be able to know, no, kung lalaki, babae nag-menstruate na, something like that. And the child will leave home to establish um, a home of his own. So the teen years here, they say it's a monumental insecurity. You can just imagine it's the onset of puberty, so there's a lot of things going on in their body. Aside from the physical, mga emotional and no mga spiritual struggles, they are also uh, struggling no with the changes sa ilahang body. So this is really what we call the monumental insecurity ang teen years. And also this is in a way na ani sila yung mga crisis during this time because they're kind of like confused whether they are still a child or adult na ba sila, something like that. And also sometimes the world will also try to ano them no like for us parents how we treat them, it's sometimes not consistent sa ilahang age level. Because even if they're already teens, there are some parents that they still treat them as a child. Or fast forward po ang uban, no, maski bata pa, they have been given a lot of responsibilities already, siguro due to, circumstances sa life na na-force sila to be on the level of adulthood na even if they are still a child. So, and also anxious, no? Teens feel vulnerable about everything. They worry about their appearance. No, they're so anxious and because again of the changes, no, which is I can truly relate to this as I see kay Caitlin, no, daghan na gyud changes that's going on sa iyaha like the pimple, mga acne, and also ang iyahang ang iyahang boobs gani dok nagadako na kaayo, and she's not comfortable to wear kanang bra na to really help support. She's comfortable still wearing the sports bra, and although I keep on telling her na no, you have to wear things like that. So they worry about their appearance. Do they have the right clothes? Are they wearing them right? Or what will their friends think about, how they look? So they're very conscious about their appearance. And sometimes it's confusing to them in a way na kanang, and I can see it also, no, like here sa America, the way teenagers dress up, mura jud kag maloka ka sa ila. And especially kita na we grew up, in a conservative way, and as much as we wanted to teach our children the right way of clothing, the appropriate clothes to wear in every places you go, especially at church. But sometimes they get confused because even inside the church, no, uh, there are times na teenagers or kids are not dressed appropriately, especially here, no, sa culture diri sa States na church is just like you can wear anything. You can wear shorts, you can wear sleeveless, you can wear a tube. So for me, how no matter how I, inculcate and train my child, but sometimes the things that they see really confuses them. And they are unstable also in the world of ideas. He knows enough to engage in conversation, but his ideas are not fully cooked. No, sometimes they are engaged in kanang if they're like parties sa balay na may mga adult, no, na kauban ana, so they feel so insecure, or they're so apprehensive to join some conversations because they feel na whatever things that they're gonna say, no, it's not yet kanang ready or appropriate to sustain the conversation. So those are the things na uh, that that will na mag-cause og nag-feel sila og insecure. Also, teens feel insecure about their bodies and their appearance. Teenagers spend fully half of their lives in front of the mirror. That is true. I can see that kay Caitlin right now. They worry about whether they are developing on a schedule. So, teenagers experience apprehensions about their personality. They wonder whether they are serious enough, funny enough, creative, and carefree enough. Remember, they are in an identity crisis. And all there are every child, no, is really different of how the Lord mold them and made them. Some are what we call introverts, some naman are extrovert, but sometimes they're just forced to kanang act or depending on sa ilahang influences, sa ilahang peers. So this alone again will cause a lot of insecurities and confusion sa ila because they're not sure of what kind of personality that they want to carry so that people can accept them. And another thing, teenagers, okay, I mentioned this already. So next slide. Let's talk about rebellion, because I believe, no, this is an important aspect food for us parents to be able to distinguish food what the difference between rebellion and disobedience, and how would we know to the signs that our kids are already rebelling, which is kana gyud siguro ang isa ka prayer gyud na ginaampo gyud nato as parents na it will not happen sa ato ang kids, no. So rebellion is the teenage years are often years of rebellion. Some of the rebellion, though, is simply a misguided attempt to establish individuality, but often teenage rebellion has a deeper roots. In some kids, it's an expression of rebellion that has been latent all along. So for some, these are just misguided attempt to establish individuality because they are in an identity crisis. They wanted uh to portray a certain character or role. Now sometimes for us parents, we thought that they are already rebelling because sometimes it's not consistent also with our expectations sa ilaha. So but ang pinaka danger daw diri with when it comes to rebellion is the one that is has a deeper root, like for a child that has been deprived siguro to express himself. Remember, we have learned all the while during the early stage pa sa bata, no, that communication is really important. Allowing them to express that a meaningful conversation gyud ang dapat naa sa balay. But instead na wala kaay nila na-express all the time. Remember, these are deeply rooted na. So it means it didn't happen only one time. It happened for a long time, which the child was deprived. And then suddenly, teenager na siya, na siya feeling of independence and a bit of authority to express iyang sarili. And then suddenly, he would do something, no, na and we would be able to know that it is rebellion and not disobedience, because rebellion daw is opposition to one in authority or ordinance in an armed resistance. No, it's not just plainly disobedience, that refusal to obey, like we ask them to do chores or we ask them to do something and then they refuse to obey or they did not do it, something like that. But a rebellion is something there's an armed resistance. So because for the longest time na wala nila na-express, suddenly na-express nila, but in a way na it's really bad. Like they can resort to what? Like drugs or anything na they know that the parents don't like them to do, but because they are already kanang full of anger or rage inside, and then suddenly they will act on it in a way na to show disapproval gyud sa ilahang parents. So again, it's our prayer na lang gyud na dili gyud na mabot. Then again, uh, we have we have since kanang time pa nagamay patong kids, or right now I believe we still have a lot of chance pa to be able to sa ilahan na they will not resort into that thing. So let's pray about that. So that's about rebellion. And next is, I would like to focus on these three foundations for life, which kanigyo diri ang gi-emphasize diri, ang three foundations for life. So what are here the three foundations of life? What are the parenting goals in this period of life? What can you hope to accomplish? What foundation blocks can you lay that are more solid than your personal ideas? What goals are simple enough to remember yet comprehensive enough to provide broadly applicable direction? So here, the goal is simple enough to remember, but yet comprehensive enough to provide direction. And these three foundations for life na mentioned diri sa author is, this is really kung sa pa a strong foundation na once we're able to inculcate this to our kids, especially at the early age and most especially sa teenage na stage, no, it will really protect them. Uh it will really them, no, na maski asa pa sila ibutang sa Ginoo, or the time na they would leave our homes, they will not be shaken. They will not be moved because of this strong foundation na inculcate gyud nato sa ilaha. And this is based sa verse sa Bible in Proverbs 1, chapter 1, 7 to 19. I'll just ask siguro Kat to read verse all these verses, if okay?
Sige, sige, Ma'am Pearl. Walang sayaw. Bible. Proverbs 1,
Proverbs
7 to 9.
1, 7 to 19.
Sige po. So,
Mhm.
ano siya? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. My son, hear the instruction of your father, and do not forsake the law of your mother, for they will be a graceful ornament on your head and chains about your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, "Come with us, let us lie in wait to shed blood. Let us lie, let us lurk secretly for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them alive like Sheol, and whole like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all kinds of precious possessions. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in your lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Keep your foot from their path, from their feet run to from for their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, but they lie in wait for their own blood, they lurk secretly for their own lives. So are the ways of everyone who is greedy for gain. It takes away the life of its owners.
Okay, thank you, Kat. So
Mm,
these verses here, no, Proverbs 1, chapter 1, 7 to 19, furnishes us with a direction. No? There are three foundations of life in this passage. And we can see here from the verse 1, that is the fear of the Lord. And the second is from verses 8 to 9, adherence to parental instruction. And verses 10 to 9 is the disassociation from the wicked. So these three foundations lang yun daw ang iano nato sa itong mga bata. And for sure, the Lord promised that everything, will be good and honorable sa Ginoo once we really inculcate to our kids these three foundations. Let's start with the fear of the Lord. The fear of the Lord. So this is the first foundation of life, walking in the fear of the Lord. Teenage child is on the threshold of life independence. He is already making choices that have major impact, especially sa future nila. So he is making values decisions each day. So it is really important that for every choice, for every decision that our kids make, even without us not telling them what to do, their own personal choices, it should be guided and rooted good. Number one, fear, fear of the Lord, because that is really the first foundation. Living in fear of God, what does it mean? What does it mean for living in fear of God? Your teenager must be motivated by a sense of awe and reverence for God. You want the choices he makes to reflect a growing comprehension of what it means to be a God worshiper. Since the question is not if, but what your child will worship, you must freely confront him with irrationality of worshiping any lesser than God. So we have to really tell them that their reverence to God, no? The fear is not fear of the consequences of what they're gonna do if they do something wrong, but it's a fear of more of because they know that God is sovereign and higher than anything else, and God is in control of whatever decision or things that they're gonna do in their life, and that apart from God, no, they can do nothing. So that's the kind of fear. So living in godly fear also means realization of accountability to him. It is living in the light of the fact that he is God and we are just creatures. He sees everything. Everything is open before him. There's nothing that they can hide from God. They can always hide from us. They can lie. They can cover up themselves for us not to be able to know. You know, they always say once the teenager lock their room and once they close their room, because when they were kids, their room is always open, right? They don't usually close their rooms. And we're always there to see them. No, silip-silipo nato sila. But there are times na there will come a time that teenagers daw will shut their door, will close their door, and we don't know. We don't know what they're doing inside with all these gadgets, with all these, you know, things that they have on their hands na ma-access nila, and we don't have any control. And that is always been my fear, but I'm always just praying to God na Lord, even if they don't, even if I don't see them, please help them realize that you are there. You are looking at them all the time, no? And they can never run or hide from God. Next is fear also means you must make the fear of God functional in a regular living. So this is also a very good ano no uh, example that we should uh, we have to model it to them. They should be able to see it, no, in our everyday walk, in our everyday living. You must make the fear of God functional. um for example, teenagers struggle with the fear of men. That is always the struggle of the teenager, yung acceptance sa peers, no? And so they worry about what their friends will think of them. So they make decisions based on fearing the disapprobation of their peers, no? They fear more pa about what the other kids would judge them or see them rather than fear sa Ginoo. So peer pressure is simply living in the fear of man rather than in the fear of God. And the most powerful way po daw that these things are taught is also by sharing by sharing one's own experience. So we were once a teenager, right? So we are not perfect also. I can also remember and recall myself as a teenager. I do struggle with sin. I do struggle with identity of what is really my identity. Am I a Christian? Am I really of Christ? But there are times that when you are in the group of friends na sometimes you lose that identity. So it's nice also once in a while to share it to our kids of the struggles that we had when we were teenagers too. Because I always remember good, no, Caitlin, every time na I tell her things, no, about this mga truths sa Bible, she will always tell me, "Mommy, why is it so hard to be perfect?" No? So that alone, that statement alone, I can feel her struggle inside because sometimes she sees different things, no? Even with especially here right now na naami diri sa Amerika. Um, things are totally different. But that then again, I will just tell her na, you know what, Caitlin, I'm actually happy that you're struggling. We will never be perfect, but you know, we will always try because God is holy. So we have to emphasize again, the holiness, the righteousness of God. So therefore, we should be holy and we should be righteous. So again, sharing it to them, our experiences and how we were able to overcome it is also a good way, a powerful way to teach them. Next is the adherence to parental instruction. This is the second foundation of life. And that we can see that in verses 8 to 9 that says, "Listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. They will be a garland to grace your head and a chain to adorn your neck." And another verse also to support this is found in Proverbs 6:20 to 23. It's actually just a repetition, no, of what, so meaning they said in the Bible, if God, you know, repeats it, that means God is really determined and, i-emphasize good niya sa tua. So as parents, we should be able to really ano good, no, put this by heart. And it says here in Proverbs, "My son, keep your father's commands and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Bind them upon your heart forever. Fasten them around your neck. When you walk, they will guide you. When you sleep, they will watch over you. When you awake, they will speak to you. For these commands are a lamp. This teaching is a light, and the correction of discipline are the way to life." Naisip na ako, no, gwapo po siguro ni i-frame nato ni siya na ibutang gyud sa ilang sa ilang mga rooms instead of posting mga kanang mga poster or anything that they ano, but it's just a thought, no, na how we wish as parents, no, na maano gyud nila ni totally mag-grasp, and then they will see our instructions as a lamp and as a light, rather than our instructions as a ano, no, kanang something na ano lang sa ila, just passing, or uh, wala kaayo'y weight sa ilaha. So and also this verse, if it says here, "If you are living in integrity with God and your children, none of this above is overstated." If you are honestly sharing your life experience and how you have come to know God more deeply and find Him more and more satisfying, you are showing the viability of Christian faith. So here, your relationship with your children must be honest. You must never give advice that suits or for your convenience lang daw or spares you trouble or embarrassment. The adherence to parental instruction also requires retraining the structure of truth in which you have been taught. No? And it means also learning to live and work within the framework of truth in which you have received instruction. So when we talk about instruction, again, we simply just go back, and our Bible really is the truths in the Bible is our basis good, no, for instruction. And whatever things that have been taught to us, you know, and we can also channel it to our kids. So that's the important thing. Now again, the second is the foundation of life is adherence to parental instruction. And and under this puts adherence to parental instruction, there is the context for parental instruction, which your children see the power of a life of faith as they see you living it. Again, we have really a role to play here. We cannot just give instruction to our kids and they cannot see it in us, po, that we are actually living it, especially sa home, no, that they can see it, because that's really the first school, before they go out of the house. That is the instruction inside the house, and everything is ang ano gid nila, no, ang mas mag-retain sa ilaha, whatever they learned inside the house. So, for short, we have to live with it. You do not need to be perfect. For us parents, it's not something na kanang ma-pressure yun ta, no? But you simply need to be people of integrity who are living life in rich, robust truth of the Word of God. And second thing also under instruction, parental instruction, is family worship. Family worship provides a special context for instruction. So let's provide our kids, no, a place even at home, like a place of worship. Family worship must connect with the world and life as your teenagers experience it. It must address in lively ways the issues that your teenagers face. And last is the last na framework, the disassociation from the wicked. Okay, the third foundation issue is found in Proverbs 1:10, which says there, "My son, if sinners entice you, do not give in to them." Solomon is calling his son to disassociation with the wicked. God understands the problem of influence. The one who lives in company with the wicked people will learn wicked ways. So God understands the problem of influence. They know that our child will be bombarded with a lot of influences to them. So the one lives in company with the wicked people will learn wicked ways. So let's just tell our kids, let's just try to really emphasize it to them na once you walk with the wicked, no, you will be like them and your ways will be like them. But the most powerful way that to keep your children from being attracted by the offers of camaraderie from the wicked, because this is really going to be so enticing to them, good kanina mga influences, no, is to make our home an attractive place to be. So why do you think kids run out from home, from their homes? No, they go to places because because maybe the home itself is not attractive to them. No, all they can hear are problems or screamings or yelling or anything. And you know how kids are right now, you know. We have to be so creative to them. Everything should be we as parents na-learn po na ako ng how to really kanaganing usahay. Just be creative in finding ways and how to really uh, give them the joy and the happiness even at home, because they will always seek happiness and joy outside, no? They will always find something good to satisfy them. So let's make our home a place na even there they are already satisfied. So the point here is this: the call to association with the wicked comes to our kids. We must work to make home an attractive place to be. Home should be the shelter where the teen is understood and loved, and where he is encouraged and shown the paths of life. So, very self-explanatory, good. I don't need to elaborate it, but again, this is really an eye-opener to me when I studied this one, no, and how our role as a mother, no, is really not easy, good, to not just to give them their needs, no, the food. There's still a lot pag yun di ay na we have to offer it to them, uh, so them for them to really be to kanang ma ma-empower gid sila, no, uh, before they're gonna leave sa atuang fold, mawala sila sa tua, because there will really come a time na we will have to release them, no? They will be going out on their way and be uh, choose the life of the path that they want to go. But now that they are still with us, now that we still have the control and we still have the authority to keep them in our fold, no, to give them the love and the understanding and the encouragement, no, and leading them to the path of life is again an opportunity that we need to embrace rather than uh, uh, something that we will cause us as a burden. And to end, I would just like us to remember this again: the three foundations of life. The fear of the Lord, good. Adherence to parental instruction, and a disassociation from the wicked. So when they do, we can expect the favor of the Lord to rest upon our efforts. And I would also like to close by saying this, that as an encouragement, no, because I don't want na we will end our study tonight na it will always be a burden, no, after hearing all these things, no. Uh, but again, it's something that it will enlighten us. So when raising teens, at the end of the day, no matter what happens, we can just cry out to the Lord for His wisdom and grace daily. This is again a paramount time in our child's life that they need to have a listening ear. Our teens need to know that mom and dad are a safe place, a safe haven for them to communicate. Teens need to be able to communicate openly with parents and vice versa. We want our children to know and understand their struggles. Again, there's a lot of peer pressures, insecurities, fear of men. We also want them to know that we do not want them falling into the trap of sin and the snares of the enemy, but to be kingdom minded and kingdom kids, set apart on fire for the living God. We must experience life together with our teens, sharing our stories together, praying together with our life together. This does not take your parental authority out of the equation. You are still a parent and they are still the child. But it will bring you into a close relationship that will unite your hearts together. Stranded is not, let your teenager know that they are loved unconditionally and that nothing will or can ever separate them from the love of Christ. Let us teach our children to not only be hearers but doers of the word of God. Thank you. Anything that you can add?
Thank
I'm
you,
so
gid,
blessed with the study,
Pearl.
Pudjud.
Yeah,
So
oo,
hopefully
namiit kayo.
we learn a lot from this. Thank you.
Thank you, gid, Pearl.